quick one, but did you see Dawkins come out as a cultural Christian? Always feel like it was only a matter of time. I definitely got a kick out of that. I know that you probably have tracked Dawkins much longer and more seriously than I have.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say that exactly, but yes,
maybe not seriously. But yeah.
I did see that, and I did, chuckle.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer, but there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols, and I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense. It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that. But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches. So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it wouldn't matter if we substituted any alternative religion. That would be truly dreadful.
It's like, come on, man, what is that? But
I guess he celebrates Christmas, but doesn't go to church on Sundays.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, if that's what it takes, then he's just like a normal British Christian, that sounds like. But anyway, that's yeah, no, I thought it was pretty fucking silly. I think it's deeply unimpressive, might be one way to put that. But I also think it makes some sense, because there was a time when, I don't know, my kind of grand unified theory of new atheism is that it was something that basically only could have existed at the really specific cultural moment that it existed in, which is not to say that there won't always be people who are interested in religion and atheism and arguing about whether there's a God. Of course there will, right? That's just a subject of enduring human interest. But the idea that there was a movement about it, and this was this thing that had this huge amount of cultural purchase, I think could have only happened exactly when it happened, right? That this is something that that I think basically happened for two related reasons, right? One of them is that if you think about sort of reactions to 9/11 and paranoia about Muslim terrorism in American culture, I think basically there was a conservative version of it and a lib version of it. The conservative version of it was the George W. Bush version, right? That it's well, okay. I mean, not that Bush said this. He was, certainly smarter than to say stuff like this, but as not smart, but smarter than that, right? But he had the sort of the version a lot of people who are really into Bush were, which was okay, so Islam is bad, but Christianity is good, right? So we need to fight the Muslim hordes in, the name of Christianity. That was the conservative, that was the red state version. But then the blue state version was, okay, maybe it's just religion in general is bad, right? And so I think, which in a way is a less, bigoted version of it, although also Hitchens and Harris were certainly supported a lot of the crazy Bush shit anyway. But Dawkins didn't, to be fair to him. I mean, I'm sure Dawkins probably supported Afghanistan, but at least not Iraq. And Dennett, I don't know if anybody asked him, but anyway, they, but
I've been waiting for somebody to ask me. I have such a good take on this, but no one's asked me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a philosopher. He's a nerd.
No,
He's not but in the, but that's half of it. Then the other half of it is, and I think the main thing really, right, is because people forget how much new atheism was a phenomenon of blue America, right? And it was a huge thing at the time. I mean, Christopher Hitchens was constantly having Fox News invite him on to yell at him about God. There was
a recent rally.
Yes, I do.
I was there.
Oh no shit. There was a There was an episode of Family Guy where Brian meets one of his girlfriends because they're at Barnes & Noble, and they're both reaching for Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, at the same time. And it was all over the place, right? But I think a lot of that is because the culture war was so different then. That this is a time when, like, I think the basic lib anxiety about the right wasn't really that, like, they're racist and fascist like it would be now. Right. I think there was some of that, but not really. Right. I think it was really that they're like scary Jesus-y people who want to, ban abortion and and teach creationism in schools and, put gay people back in the closet. Right. That was the anxiety. And I think new atheism, that kind of branding, that movie, like, spoke to that. Right. So I think that, whereas now the culture war has just changed dramatically. Like, evangelicals might still be Trump's most reliable and the GOP's most reliable, voting bloc. They are, right? White evangelicals are. But the culture war has shifted so much that it's like nobody really cares that Trump doesn't bother to pretend to be one of them, right? It's like, I like the joke I always make about this is that Trump could give a speech in front of an inverted cross and a pool of blood, and as long as he owned the libs in the speech, like, the evangelicals would be fine with it. They'd be like, yeah, well, we don't totally agree with him about that, Satan thing, but still, right? Like, still good stuff. So yeah, I think that because the culture war has shifted so dramatically, it no longer makes sense in the same way for, like, atheism to be somebody's main thing, right? That they have it's like, oh, what, we're all going to be best friends now because, like, we don't think there's a God. That doesn't.
I mean, the only thing is that if you have a group trying to overturn those state laws where they're still are on the books saying that you can't serve in public office if you're an atheist, like, that's the only real thing I could see an atheist movement do. I don't see any. I mean, those laws should be overturned, whether you're an atheist or not.
Of course they should be, right? Like, there's a lot of other separation of church and state kind of stuff that, like, atheist groups might talk about that I'm all for talking about. But, like, I think when everybody's a little bit less focused on that issue, you start to notice that, oh, hey, all of us who might be here at the Reason Rally together don't actually agree on, like, most things that matter the most, right? So, which is why, I mean, certainly anecdotally, right? It's like, people are all over the place, right? A certain percentage of, like, grassroots new atheists became, like, IDW people and, like, got themselves to the point where they, like, love Jordan Peterson, although he's like always spouting mystical horse shit. And, but there's also, like, a big proportion of grassroots new atheists, anecdotally, at least. I don't know that anybody's done a poll on this. But people who were, like, super duper into that, who I knew, back then, or I know now, and they've talked to me about it then, who are, like, Jacobin-y kinds of leftists now, right? I mean, people go in all sorts of different directions. So it's like, yeah, I think Dawkins was always a bit of an Islamophobe, and he always made some unsavory comments about that from time to time. He's also, I think that, like, some of his cultural preoccupations now, I think he's, like, probably more aligned with, like, a lot of people who like hearing him say that he's a cultural Christian. And I know it's not, somebody pointed out in the chat, it's not the first time he said it, but, this is the time that got the most play, right? So it's like, as funny as it is, it doesn't totally shock me that he's trying to square that circle a little bit now, or in the last several years, maybe in general. The only other, and yeah, I don't know. I guess my other thing about Richard Dawkins is that I think he's kind of the ultimate dumb smart guy. That, in other words, like, he's clearly, like, a very good biologist, and he's actually a very, very good, like, popularizer of biology. Like, when he's just writing to, like, explain evolutionary biology to laymen, he's actually really good at it. But, like, every time he steps out of that and starts talking about other subjects, it gets really weird, right? Like, remember that thing where he was like, oh, I don't understand why Kafka's The Metamorphosis is considered to be such a classic. It doesn't even make sense. You can't turn into a cockroach. What is that? Like, it's, there's, like, straw manning what he said, but only a little bit. It was like really close to that. So it's like, yeah, I think like when he's not talking about science, he says a bunch of stupid bullshit. And so I just don't pay that much attention. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.